This is my 8th year in cybersecurity. I'm pretty sure many of you have spent more time in cybersecurity than I have. And 8 years ago when I joined Palo Alto Networks, we were a firewall company. We used to sell the best firewalls you could find. But as I spent time trying to understand the industry, I realized we're one of the latest entrants into enterprise technology. But now AI has sort of taken over the charm, but at that point in time, we were the earliest entrants or latest entrants in the world of enterprise technology. And you realize when industries are formed, when they're early, you find a series of smart companies delivering amazing solutions in the market. But the plan doesn't emerge. And you've seen that happen in perhaps CRM, if you remember those things, they're called CRM, Salesforce, et cetera. You've seen that happen in ITSM or IT technology. You've seen that happen in HR technology and financial technology. As time passes, all these amazing new features become commonplace. Everybody has them. As they become commonplace, the value of them together far supersedes the innovation in each one of them. What I'm trying to tell you is that in the early stages of an industry, the task of stitching and connecting various solutions belongs to the customer. As the industry evolves over 10, 15, 20 years, the task of stitching goes back to the industry partners, suppliers, vendors, whatever your favorite word is. And you've seen that in cybersecurity happen over the last 7 years. We no longer buy individual features for small companies because it's very hard at the pace, at the speed at which cybersecurity is moving for our partners, our customers to actually take the time and stitch the data together, stitch the solutions together, and have possible solutions that actually prevent the act of bad actors. We came to the realization about 3 or 4 years ago when at Palo Alto we had reached approximately 70 products. I realized even we had a hard time keeping it together in terms of how to go deliver, deploy, and make those products successful for our customers. And we came upon this idea, which we were vilified originally for, called platformization. And the principle of platformization is that let us do the stitching for you. We can take what our hardware firewalls do, we can take what our software firewalls do, we can take what our SASE product does, put them together with single control plane, a single deployment capability, a single set of policies, a common data lake underneath it, so we can actually act at machine learning speed. We did that for network security, we did that for the SOC, and we did that for cloud security. Now, my view in the last 7 years has always been, every time you hit an inflection point in that particular sector in cybersecurity, things are going to change. All of you remember the inflection point in endpoints. There were industry leaders in the past called McAfee or Symantec, which did an amazing job. They actually protected many of our customers for many, many years. And suddenly you saw this wave of EDR and XDR arrive. And the wave of EDR, XDR built new winners, like the CrowdStrikes of the world, the SentinelOnes, the Palo Altos, the Microsoft Defenders of the world. So you saw, as the inflection point hits, if the industry doesn't rally, if existing players don't rally, you see a shift because the new players have figured out something, and many of your customers in the room realize you hit a point. The inflection point is when it's worth ripping out the old technology because the new technology offers so much more features, I will go through the pain of taking out something else. Now, that's kind of a failure on the part of our industry. We should never get it to a point where some other product is so much better than we deliver that you feel the need to take us out. So that's the inflection point we at Palo Alto Networks look for, because those inflection points allow us the opportunity to go ahead and fundamentally platformize our customers. We've seen that a few times in our life. We've seen that within Palo Alto Networks at, as I said, the hardware firewall. We actually were able to build software firewalls where we enjoy 50% market share thanks to our customers because we saw that trend first. We saw SASE flip during COVID from just being pure internet access to being comprehensive access for every employee, every application, every user where they are. Now we're the second largest player in SASE, coming fast, trying to go be the industry leader in that space. We've seen the same happen in the SIM. We were not a player in the SIM. Today, we're one of the top 3 players in the SIM category because we are able to provide real-time capability and protect our customers in real time against bad actors with a median time to detect and remediate at Palo Alto of 1 minute. And this is important because I'll come back to it. However, the industry still has a lot of vendors. We still discover when we go to one of our customers that on average, their cybersecurity vendors are more than their technology vendors in their infrastructure, which doesn't make sense. Cybersecurity is about 8% of your spend, and how can the number of vendors in cybersecurity be as many as your technology vendors? Which means there's still further room for integration, for stitching, for things to work together better, faster. And as we were thinking about this, we were wondering where the next inflection point in cybersecurity is going to arrive. We had avoided the space of identity because we felt identity was full of amazing players in the market, and the identity problem was being solved for our customers by people like CyberArk, which is now a Palo Alto company, or people like Okta, perhaps in the IAM space. But as we spend more and more time to understand how identity is going to inflect and when, as we saw the beginnings of AI, we came to the realization that AI was going to create the inflection point for identity. If you think about what's going on, almost 90% of cybersecurity attacks originate from identity. Credential thefts, credential hijacking, somebody posing as somebody else. What's fascinating is most organizations take anywhere from, if you're lucky, 48 hours to 2 weeks to actually build the identity graph of the individuals who have been compromised. Because the data is sitting in many different places. It's sitting in your IAM provider, it's sitting in your privileged access provider, it's sitting in a bunch of SaaS logs which belong to SaaS applications, it's sitting all over your enterprise in different systems, and there's no way to actually collate that, collect that, build an identity graph, and understand what actually happened in infrastructure. Armed with that insight, we spent a lot of time trying to see who had the best position and where could we bring the concept of platformization to the market in partnership with, and who could we do that with. And I can't tell you how excited we are at Palo Alto Networks that we had the privilege of meeting the CyberArk team, we had the privilege of meeting the leadership of CyberArk, Udi and Matt and others, and we reached a common understanding because the vision of both Palo Alto Networks and CyberArk were aligned. Our vision was that we need to bring innovation, we need to bring platformization, and we need to change how identity operates in the market of cybersecurity because that is the next inflection point in cybersecurity. So I just want to give a big thank you and a round of applause to the CyberArk team in the room for choosing to be part of Palo Alto Networks. But that's not where it stops. If you think about cybersecurity, since I'm still learning my cybersecurity after 7 or 8 years, I appreciate PD calling me the influential person in cybersecurity. I'm just hiding behind all these great people who work for me. So for me, cybersecurity is somewhat simplistic. If it's a bad guy, there are products that sit at the perimeter, and if you know it's bad, we stop them, right? If you've ever been stopped by getting a building, they think you're a bad guy, right? We stop them at the beginning. That's the easy part of cybersecurity, because all the action happens when the bad guy gets in. No breach happened because you stopped somebody at the door, I promise you. Even that, I understood that in 7 years. All the breaches and attacks happened because something got past your perimeter defense. The moment something gets past your perimeter defense, how do you figure out how to solve the problem? All of you have this amazing thing called SOCs, and you have all these analytic techniques, and you have all these tools that you deploy to make sure that we're going to analyze all the stuff that's going on to figure out how to figure out if this is good or bad. So there's a second order of determination whether what's got in is good or bad. And if it's bad, how bad is it and how sure am I? Because if it's really bad and you're very sure, you can stop it. If you're not quite sure, if it's not really bad, you don't want to bring the boss's laptop down, right? Because typically the phone calls from cyber teams and IT teams get is, why is this not working? I'm still waiting for a phone call that says, things are working great, thank you for doing what you do, right? So if you believe that that's what cybersecurity is, then how do we make sure that things that get through our perimeter can be analyzed, can be understood, and can be stopped with full certainty? That requires a lot more context. It requires a lot more understanding. It requires amazing perimeter defense. So if identity is one of the critical factors of the perimeter, it is very important that we continue to innovate and ensure that the perimeter of identity continues to be safe in the future. And you will hear today from Perez and Nir and others in the team, Avihai, that how are we going to go take this innovation forward. We have spent a lot of time over the last few months getting to know the team, understanding, and actually aligning on a common vision. And we're going to talk about that in a bit. But no discussion in technology is finished today without talking about the two alphabets which have overtaken our life. Like, how can we have a keynote without talking about AI? Right? We should talk about AI. Sorry? And agents, we'll get to them. Don't speak my keynote, dude. Give me a chance. All right? So we have to talk about AI. Well, while we're busy thinking about identity platformization, this amazing thing shows up called AI. Now, the only danger is we are all, and I say all because I think all the cool AI people are not in the room. They're busy writing code for building Claude Code or building Anthropic. All of us have to become very, very smart about AI very, very quickly, right? Because none of us grew up learning AI or the tools of Claude Code, et cetera. We're all learning, we're all adapting to AI. But we're all smart people, you live in technology. If I told you that the largest technology companies in the world are going to spend $1 trillion in the next 12 months on something, whatever it is, we have to pay attention, right? $1 trillion is a lot of money, last I checked. So $1 trillion is going to be spent. If I tell you that there's probably 30 to 40% of the developer population already actively using AI to code, and that number is only going to rise. If I tell you that last night I was at dinner in San Francisco, and I just came last night, I was sitting across this person who had an undergraduate in economics, and I was just chatting with him. Of course, you can't have dinner without talking about AI. And he told me he's got OpenClaw running on his phone, and he's built an agent called Zara, and she's doing all his scheduling and sending all the emails. So the email I got from him about dinner was from Zara because his Uber was late. So this is interesting, but when we take that and play that movie 3 to 5 years out, because remember, in technology, if you want to anticipate where you should be building product, is you have to play the movie 3 to 5 years out. You can't build for today. If you build for today, you're already late. But 3 to 5 years from now, every one of you is going to be using multiple agents of your own acting on your behalf, whether it's on your personal device or your professional device. The world is going to be full of these agents. These are the easier agents. These are people who take our credentials and act on our behalf. And you can choose to restrict their ability to whatever you choose to allow them to do. My agent can book airline tickets but cannot book reservations for dinner because I hate what my agent picks. No problem, right? So we are all going to have multiple agents floating around using our credentials, both in the personal world as well as the enterprise world. Guess what? I haven't met a systems integrator in the world who doesn't believe that they're going to create non-human agents for us. I will take 5,000 customer support people and turn them into 10,000 customer support agents. They will solve your problem. You guys have heard this pitch? That company is raising billions of dollars on that pitch out there. So the world is going to be flooded with agents. The only difference is, with humans, you can hope for some human judgment when they see something wrong, right? If a human sees something, it doesn't look right, I can stop it. Agents will not, maybe they will develop judgment and we won't be needed, but until then, we're going to have millions of agents floating around in the IT infrastructure. All these agents need to be identified. All these agents need to be understood. All their data needs to be brought together. All that data requires us to be able to analyze it and stop them from acting in a way that they shouldn't be acting. So I think the space of identity just became even more exciting after we made the decision to platformize identity from an inflection point perspective. And I don't think I can stand here and say, we all know what the right answer is yet. And the reason I'm saying that is not because our teams are not working hard trying to figure out what the right answer is. We're anticipating scenarios to see how the world will operate, right? 6 months ago, there was a different scenario. 6 months ago, I heard about these browsers, which are going to become agentic browsers and do a lot of work for you. Today, I don't hear much about agentic browsers because it's a little scary thought that the browser is going to take all my credentials and act on my behalf, and I have no kill switch and no control capability. So the world is going to evolve. But what is clear in this evolution is that identity needs to evolve. The identity we had, where we nicely put it in different boxes called, oh, this is called privileged identity, this is for really important people, this is called IAM, or identity access management, it's for normal people. And now this is called NHI, non-human identity, it's for agents. So we had little boxes where we put all the different people, say, have a good time, don't get out of your box. Well, unfortunately, some of these people live across all boxes. They say, oh, but if you have a problem with the way you set up the posture, we'll create something called ISPM. And if you're really not managing it right, we'll create something called IGA, governance. So we created these many 3-letter, 4-letter acronyms to bifurcate the identity business. At the end of the day, what do you want? I want to know who did it, how they did it, when they did it, where are they, and how do I kill that identity because it's going to be bad in my infrastructure. Sounds pretty straightforward. Well, that's the problem that the team from CyberArk is going to solve. As you know, that in any such coming together of two businesses at Palo Alto Networks and CyberArk, you take the best of both and you bring it together. As part of the best of both, we took the CyberArk brand and their stock ticker, and we listed CyberArk in Israel as a token of our appreciation, our gratitude for all the amazing work that the CyberArk team had done. However, it's time for us to evolve the product of identity in partnership and under the leadership of the CyberArk team, and also welcome the new set of products for identity under a new name. So it is my privilege and pleasure to announce the brand identity of the CyberArk product called Idira. All right. You'll hear a lot more about this from Peretz and the team in a few minutes. But before they come up and talk about what they are working on and how this is going to evolve, I think it's very important. We have to make sure that privileged access management takes the next step. We have to make sure that it is modern, it is in line with the expectations and requirements of our customers as they evolve to the new technology platforms of AI and go fully cloud over the future. It is important for us to bring privileged access management and identity and access management together in a much more comprehensive, cohesive way. It is important for us to bring non-human identities into that equation and see the identity as a consistent landscape for our customers over time. So what you will hear from the team is the beginnings of us starting that journey. You'll hear from them our commitment to continue to keep working in that direction to make sure that we build the industry's best identity platform for the future. To help me in the task, to partner with Peretz and Nir and Avihai and Amy and the team, I'm delighted to announce the new General Manager and President of Idira, Sunny Singh. I've had the privilege of knowing Sunny for a very long time. He's a professional. He's amazing at what he does. He was most recently at Oracle before this. He spent many, many, many years building an amazing set of business for Oracle. We can't be more excited that he's going to be part of the Idira journey with Palo Alto Networks. Please join me in a big round of applause and welcoming Sunny Singh. Have a great conference, guys.
Note to self, never follow Nikesh on stage again. Well, good morning, everyone. Good morning. First and foremost, to all our customers, partners, and all my colleagues from CyberArk and Palo Alto Networks, I'm absolutely delighted to be here today. It is day 0 in the world of cybersecurity for me, but I'm thrilled to be here, and I look forward to working with all of you in the coming future. Thank you very much for that warm welcome. This is an important moment, and I'm excited to be here for that. What we are announcing today is much more than the launch of a brand. The launch of Idira is very important because for us, it means a new platform direction. And the reason why this matters is really very simple. Nikesh talked a lot about it. The technology industry overall has been very prolific, very, very innovative. But one thing that you can hold us accountable for is that we've been building new features, building new capabilities. We do what we do best, and then we toss it over the wall to our customers. And we leave the challenge of making all of that work in your environment, in your architecture, to you. This means there's a lot of disparate data sources, there are disconnected workflows, there's a lot of manual integration. And this reduces the opportunity to accelerate time to value. All of this is happening while you're dealing with a threat landscape that keeps on evolving. A phrase you're likely to hear over and over again is that attackers are not breaking in, they're actually logging on. And this is what we are seeing. More and more attacks start with identity. They start with maybe unauthorized privilege. They may start with credentials that are outdated. They start with access that looks legitimate until it's abused and it's too late. So this old model where privileged access is treated like a narrow, isolated problem is just not enough anymore. All of you, our customers, need a much more modern approach, and that is what Idira is all about. It's about bringing privileged access and identity security into a broader platform model. It's about reducing the burden of integration for you. It's about delivering that value of integration as a built-in capability, not bolted on after the fact. When we think about platforms, Idira is actually a critical third pillar to the broader Palo Alto Networks portfolio of capabilities. It sits besides network security, which is Strata, cloud security, which is Cortex, and now identity security, all working closely together with AI. This is important because it actually tells you how central identity and privilege have become to the overall security architecture. It's no longer a side category. It's fundamental and it's foundational. And this is where the platform advantage matters so much. It means, for you, less complexity. It means more context. And it means better outcomes and an accelerated time to value. At the end of the day, you as our customers should not have to take on this integration challenge, making all of these piece parts work together so you have a comprehensive capability for managing the threat landscape. It's our job to make that easier for you. It is our job to deliver a platform that works together by design. That is the promise of Idira, a modern platform for privileged access and identity security, built for the way attacks happen now, and built for the way that customers need to operate going forward.
Low impact, everyone. It's really, really incredible to be here with you today. We are standing in Austin, in the heart of Austin, also known as the Silicon Hills, a place that has spent decades in redefining what it means to be a global hub of innovation. This city doesn't just build technology, it reimagines it. Austin was the first place in the world to see the PC industry completely disrupted. And it continues to lead the way in advanced manufacturing and infrastructure for the commercial use of AI. This is the place that chooses to scale rather than just experiment. And it makes it exactly my kind of place. It is an honor for me to stand here with you today at the dawn of a new era for identity. And to understand where we are going, we have to look back on how we got here. Over 25 years ago, CyberArk built a safe. It was designed with a simple and noble purpose to protect digital assets. But then something interesting happened. A customer told us they were not just using the safe for general files. They were using it to store admin credentials. They also told us they didn't really like the word safe because it felt really just a bit too small. They wanted to call it a vault. That was the spark. That was the moment privileged access management market was born. And at the time, the analyst at Gartner gave it a clinical name, SUPM, stands for Super User Privilege Management. And for the longest time, that's exactly what PAM was. It was Super User Privilege Management. It was a world of physical servers, local admins, and a handful of people who held the keys to the kingdom. It was a very simpler time with a really well-defined perimeter and a manageable number of targets. Those days are gone. Everything has changed. Our environment, our identities, and the entire attack landscape have shifted fundamentally. We have moved from a single isolated data center into incredibly complex environments. We are managing distributed clouds, hundreds of SaaS applications, and thousands of microservices. This has led us to an ever-increasing attack surface. Every point of connection is now a potential point of entry. And to make matters worse, we are no longer facing opportunistic hacker of the past. We are facing sophisticated and AI-armed cyber criminals. These adversaries using the same agentic tools we use to automate their defense, making identity the #1 target. Identities, privilege, and risk are already pervasive throughout your entire environment. Let us start with the human users. We used to think privilege was reserved only for the IT admins in our environment. Today, every human identity can become a privileged identity. Whether it is a developer pushing code, a cloud operator managing infrastructure, or a business user accessing sensitive data, they all have the power to impact the business. The data tells us a dark story. 96% of human users today have access beyond what is strictly required to do their job. 96%. We are living in a permanent state of overprivilege. This uncontrolled privilege means that for almost every person in your organization, an attacker does not need to find a vulnerability. They just need to find the login. But humans are no longer the primary resident of the network. Machines have taken over at a scale that is really difficult to comprehend. For every human being in your enterprise, there are now 109 machine identities. These are the non-human identities like API keys, service accounts, and secrets buried in your CI/CD pipelines that run your business at a machine speed. This is hidden access to your highest risk systems and data. They are the silent majority of your identity state. They are growing exponentially, and in most organizations, they are operating entirely in a disconnected silos. Now, let's add the newest and most volatile persona to the mix, which is, of course, the AI agents. These agents have memory, they have skills, and they act autonomously. They are being deployed faster than any technology in history, yet governance is non-existent. 94% of companies admit they lack the proper security controls for AI agents. We have allowed AI adoption to drastically outpace our controls. These agents are being delegated to act as us on behalf of, but they operate in governance vacuum, where we cannot really reduce their credentials. We have given AI the arms and legs to act, but we have not given it the nervous system of security. So why are we in this position? We're in this position because the industry is fighting a platform scale war with a collection of fragmented point products. The issue is in how the identity market itself evolved. Standalone access management focused on operational management, not security. Traditional PAM solutions focus narrowly on IT admins. Legacy identity governance is pretty complex and slow. Machine identity grew in a disconnected silo, and AI identity is emerging as yet another layer. Sometimes they come from different vendors. Sometimes they come from the same vendor, but remain loosely integrated. They always leave gaps. And to compensate, organizations keep adding more and more tools, like identity threat detection and response. These silos create the gaps where attackers live. When your identity tools do not talk to each other, you cannot see an attacker move from hijack human session to an unmanaged machine to an AI agent. Silos do not just create complexity. They create catastrophe. And the result of this fragmentation is inevitable. Identity is the #1 attack vector today. 9 out of 10 organizations experience at least one successful identity-related breach. And Palo Alto Networks Unit 42 tells us that in 90% of the incidents, an identity weakness played a role. Attackers are no longer breaking in. They are logging in. And they steal credentials, abuse standing access, escalate privilege, and move laterally using legitimate pathways. When identity is compromised, everything downstream, the cloud infrastructure, SaaS platform, the data itself can become exposed. Identity is no longer just part of security architecture. It is the attack surface. In the AI enterprise of tomorrow, this will become even more challenging. The enterprise is being redefined, not by the software alone, but by how work gets done. From employees using agentic browsers to sync CRM data, to developers building AI-driven endpoints, AI is becoming the digital surface of the enterprise. We are moving toward a world where identity will become more dynamic, more distributed, and much more chaotic. Risk is turning exponential. AI agent growth is now significantly outpacing human growth. We're no longer just managing people, but a high-speed autonomous workforce. This creates risk we have never seen before. Unchecked agent access and weaponized intelligence moving at machine speed cause traditional defense to fail. This compounds daily into a state of identity chaos. We have reached the point where the speed of the AI agents has officially outrun the manual speed of the administrator. You heard Nikesh, we have reached to our inflection point. The state of the identity market must evolve fundamentally in order to keep up with the agentic future we have described today. We can no longer pretend that adding another tool, another silo capability will fix the problem. Yesterday's silo simply cannot solve the problem of tomorrow. You, as an identity and security leader, must meet this moment. You are the architects of the next era of defense, and you lead the transition from administrative management into active security. What is required is a cohesive identity security platform. The only effective answer to the existing chaos is a single, unified architecture that protects all identities, including human, machine, and agentic. The modern enterprise requires breaking down the silos and deep inefficiencies found within the current point product reality. This means redefining security controls that were once reserved only for a few users and establishing them as a universal standard for all. Such an approach fundamentally disrupts the legacy market of PAM, IAM, and IGA. Those markets were designed for a static world, but in the agentic era, it demands a platform built for a dynamic one. This is a mandatory evolution of identity security, bringing together world-class identity intelligence with an integrated security fabric to create a foundation that cannot be broken. This is why we are here today. I'm incredibly proud to introduce Idira. Idira is a cohesive identity security platform built especially for the AI enterprise. We have taken the trusted and best-in-class DNA of CyberArk and infused it with the global scale and AI precision of Palo Alto Networks. Idira is a cohesive system that can continuously discover all identities, control privileges, and govern access across the entire enterprise. It enables organizations to both find and remediate identity risk at machine speed. Discover, control, govern. These are not new ideas, but the way we apply them has fundamentally changed. Let's start with discovery. For a long time, discovery meant inventory, a point-in-time view of what exists in the system. But there is no longer enough, because identities do not just exist. They evolve. They gain access. They lose access. They interact with new systems. They behave differently over time. So discovery has to be continuous. It has to be contextual. And it has to be intelligent. This means not just identifying the identities, but understanding how they behave, what they access, and where they introduce risk across environments. And it means surfacing that risk in a way that teams can actually use and with context to understand it and a remediation path to reduce it. This is why discovery in Idira is paired with enhanced context, with centralized visibility and AI-driven risk analysis, not just a list of identities. Once you're figured out and you have the level of visibility, you can move into control. And this is where one of the biggest shifts happens. Because historically, access has been static. Users were granted permissions. Those permissions persisted. And over time, those permissions accumulated. That created standing risk. Because once entitlement exists, it can be exploited. What we are doing instead is making privilege dynamic. Access is granted when it is needed. It is evaluated continuously. And it is removed when it is no longer required. So instead of asking who has access, we start asking a more important question. Who should have access right now? And that model applies across the full identity spectrum. For human identities, that means zero standing privilege and just-in-time access to modern systems. For machine identities, it means stronger workload identities and secrets control. And for agents, it means fine-grained action control and governed delegated access. And then governance. Governance ensures that this remains true over time. Because identity security is not just about the moment of access. It's really about the full life cycle, how identities are created, how access is assigned, how it changes over time, and how it is eventually removed. That life cycle has to be continuous. It has to be automated, and it has to be consistent. Because the risk does not come from what you configure once. It comes from what drifts over time. And the key shift here is that governance is no longer a periodic compliance exercise. It becomes a continuous operational control. AI-powered policy helps move organizations from manual reviews and siloed workflows to automated governance to keep pace with the scale and velocity of the modern enterprise. Our vision is clear. One platform, every identity. Today, you will see Idira in action across human users, machine identities, and AI agents. We are ending the era of identity chaos. We're establishing Idira as the platform of the future of identity security. We are building the future of identity security not just to keep pace with AI, but to stay ahead of it. And to show you how we are using Idira to radically disrupt and redefine the human side of the house, please welcome Amy Blackshaw.
Well, thank you, Peretz, and hello, Impact. I am so happy to be with you guys today. It's amazing to be here in Austin and to see so many familiar faces. Thank you for spending time with us. Now, I want to start with something that on the surface feels very familiar. But when you really look at it, it has completely changed. And I'm talking about privilege. For a long time, we have thought about privilege in a very specific, very narrow way. In fact, privilege belonged to a small group of people, IT administrators, who held the keys to the kingdom. That was the original problem that PAM was built to solve, and CyberArk solved it better than anyone else. But here is the reality we have to face. That world no longer exists. In every modern enterprise, every single user can become privileged based on the data, the SaaS applications they can access. Privilege has been democratized, but not in a way that makes us safer. Today, your developers are pushing code directly into production. Your cloud operations, well, they are managing infrastructure from a single console. Your data scientists are running models against your company's most sensitive and proprietary customer data. And now, business users, just like me, we are living inside SaaS applications that holds the crown jewels of your information. These are all high-risk identities that can impact entire systems with a single keystroke. Yet, despite this reality, only 22% of organizations attribute privilege to every human identity. This is a massive disconnect. It means that for 78% of organizations, true identity security is only being applied to a tiny subset of users. Human privileges are pervasive. It is uncontrolled, and it is an open door for attackers. This disconnect creates what we call the privilege exposure gap, where privilege lives today and where security is actually applied. Now, there are three primary reasons why this gap continues to widen. First, we are suffering from fragmented visibility. Traditional tools were built for a static world. They provide limited insight across modern workloads and cloud-native identities. This is what we call identity debt, hidden in plain sight, accumulating interest every day you don't address it. Second, we have a problem with persistent risk. We are still relying on static, always-on privileges. In a modern environment, standing privileges should be the exception, yet somehow they've become the default. This creates a permanent attack surface, allowing adversaries to exploit that standing access whenever they choose. And finally, there's complexity in our tools. Traditional systems require heavy, manual deployments that can slow down your teams. This forces business leaders to make an impossible choice between security and velocity. When you combine these factors, overprivilege and dormant access accumulate rapidly. The attacker can use these trusted paths without triggering alerts. Risk and cost compound over time, and this gap is only growing larger. So we have to be honest with ourselves as an industry. The existing model is broken. It simply cannot keep up with pervasive privileges and the sheer velocity of AI growth. This moment requires more than just an update. It requires a fundamental category shift. We have to redefine how we deliver privileged security across the entire enterprise. We cannot just iterate. For too long, the industry has accepted a two-tier system: high-grade security for the few and basic authentication for the many. But attackers don't care about our internal definitions. They care about access. Meeting this moment means moving beyond the silos of the past to build a system that treats every identity as a privileged identity by default. We must be willing to disrupt ourselves to meet the needs of the AI enterprise. And it is with that spirit that I am incredibly proud to introduce our next generation of human identity security, Idira Modern Privileged Access Management. Idira sets a new standard for PAM. By eliminating standing privileges and extending dynamic privilege controls to all users, we are democratizing privilege controls. And this will help ensure that all identities are secured, not just managed. We are building this on 3 core pillars: full discovery to eliminate blind spots, dynamic privilege access to extend controls to every identity and modern target, and radical simplicity to make security a force multiplier. Now, let's take a look at this first pillar, discovery. But this is not discovery as we have known it, not a static inventory, not a one-time scan. This is continuous AI-driven discovery, understanding where privilege exists across the enterprise, across users, across cloud environments, across SaaS applications, but more importantly, understanding context, how these identities behave, what they access, and where they introduce risk. We are introducing the remediation agent, where visibility finally meets automated action. The goal is to replace your blind spots with continuous visibility and AI-driven analytics that surface and remediate identity risk across the entire enterprise. This agent is a true game changer. It analyzes your specific tenant account onboarding patterns to predict and recommend the best controls for every discovered account. This is the find it, fix it capability the industry has been waiting for. The remediation agent acts as a force multiplier for your team. It can reduce your onboarding cycle time by up to 66%. We're talking about moving from a 21-day manual, fragmented process down to just 7 days. And we do this all with a human-in-the-loop philosophy. Every AI recommendation includes a confidence score and the specific onboarding reasoning, so your team remains in control while moving at light speed. Now, to show you exactly how we turn visibility into action, let's look at how Idira's AI remediation agent tackles the massive scale of unmanaged accounts across your enterprise.
Every organization is buried under identity debt. For a security admin, the Idira risk management dashboard maps that debt, revealing a high-risk baseline of unmanaged admins and exposed secrets that grow faster than we can secure them. We can't fix it all at once, so we prioritize. By identifying our top 5 hotspots, we see the structural risks that matter most, like orphaned users with privileged access and compromised shared app credentials. But we don't stop at visibility. We use Cora AI to turn these insights into a plan. We simply ask Cora to secure our most privileged accounts, providing instant visibility into the exposure. And remediation is now automated for built-in and service accounts. The AI agent does the heavy lifting, analyzing context and onboarding accounts in bulk. This is PAM at the speed of business. For personal privileged accounts, we remove the risk entirely. We move users from permanent standing access to zero standing privilege, so access only exists when the work is actually happening. The result? We've shifted the needle. Our risk score is trending down because we've neutralized the exposures that matter most, moving from identity debt to a hardened posture. Finally, we ensure that debt doesn't crawl back. Continuous governance keeps the environment secure long after the initial cleanup.
What you just saw first was a missed trigger of my clicker, but we got it to work, was the shift from manual discovery to automated remediation, empowering you to not only find risk, but to fix it. Now, I love hearing from our customers and how the innovation we're driving is helping them every day. So let's take a listen to Brian.
Identity is, I really think, the place to be, and you've got to get that right to enable the business. How do we change that paradigm where we can reliably leverage AI to solve our problems at speed much, much faster? And again, some of the remediation solutions are some of the things I've been looking for. We're sort of at a balancing point. Too fast, and we're not going to think things through all the way. Too slow, and the whole industry and the whole capability set that we're trying to secure is going to get away from us. We need reliable, repeatable solutions that are at speed. I think more and more high-quality platform solutions are really important. Palo Alto has a lot of best of breed that they bring to the table. It's the same innovation we've counted on for many years going forward as part of a very, very state-of-the-art Palo Alto network family.
We move on to controls, and this is where the biggest shift happens. We move away from where identity is static and the idea that access should exist permanently, and towards a model to have access exist only when it's needed. This is dynamic privilege, and it's delivered through a combination of models: zero standing privilege, just-in-time access, and contextual enforcement. Now, zero standing privilege means exactly what it sounds like. There are no permanent permissions, no standing access. Nothing exists unless it's required, even if the compromise happens and the credential is taken over by an attacker. There is no entitlement for them to use and leverage laterally. And that changes everything. Because if permanent entitlement does not exist, it cannot be exploited. For scenarios where access is required temporarily, we use just-in-time access. Permissions are granted for a specific task, for a specific duration, and then removed immediately after. And the key here is updating and extending this model so that it's not just for traditional environments, it's for modern environments. That includes zero standing privilege and access for managed Kubernetes and Entra ID groups, helping customers bring dynamic privileges to systems that have become central to modern operations. It also means shifting PAM left with Terraform and CLI-based automations that allow customers to embed privilege controls into deployment workflows instead of layering them in after the fact. And privilege controls are not just for IT administrators anymore. We are extending true security to all human users, whether it's a developer, a data scientist, a business user. We are providing seamless privilege session management for the web applications where your most sensitive data lives. We are shifting from a workforce state of static, standing privilege to a secure, dynamic state of just-in-time access. Now, to show you how this transformation impacts the daily experience of an employee, let's walk through a day in the life of a platform engineer operating in a world of zero standing privilege.
Alex is a platform engineer, and his day begins from a trusted foundation. His workstation, secured by Cortex, Idira Endpoint Privilege Manager, and Prisma Secure Browser. If Cortex identifies a threat, it triggers EPM to impose a stricter policy posture to neutralize risk. Alex starts with zero standing privilege. Because of his role in the Project Phoenix production deployment, the platform has already paved the path for the infrastructure and applications he needs. This isn't manual policy creation. It's deployed as code via Terraform. Security is baked in the pipeline. This allows him to jump straight into the mission. First, he needs to push an updated Intune policy for devices that are part of the project. Alex gets scoped, just-in-time access to Intune, and his privileges expire at the end of the session. Next, Alex needs to monitor the health of Project Phoenix using ZSP for SaaS applications to access the Chronosphere dashboard. He identifies a latency alert on the production cluster. Alex has the necessary visibility to diagnose the root cause without standing privileges. To resolve the problem, he uses the IDSec CLI to gain native access to the production cluster to remediate it, all with zero standing privilege. Finally, the CISO's view. The command center is the high-definition proof of our zero-trust strategy. We see the full story, not just Alex's ZSP access, but the activity of our machine and AI identities as well. The Phoenix production rollout is a success. The audit trail is complete, and the attack surface has been reduced.
By shifting from static permissions to dynamic session-based access, we've empowered Alex to move at the speed of business without leaving an open door for attackers. Now, just as importantly as what we do is how we deliver it. With Idira, we have completely reimagined the user experience through a unified command center. It provides real-time insights from workforce users and vendors to service accounts and AI agents. Now, it doesn't just show you identities. It shows you exactly how they connect to your systems, the privileges that they hold, and the risk they pose. But this is more than just a dashboard. It's an entirely new way of working. By implementing a unified policy model with guided, outcome-driven workflows, we've fundamentally reduced the overhead of operating PAM at scale through self-service deployment. From the command center, your security teams can finally monitor identity posture in real time, enforce policy, and investigate incidents from a single unified console. The PAM you know and love is finally ready for the future with Idira. Everything we've discussed today, from discovery, the dynamic access, the radical simplicity, it all leads to a very different outcome for your organization. First and foremost, you eliminate standing access. By ensuring that no identity holds access longer than necessary, you remove the permanent attack surface that adversaries rely on. You reduce lateral movement. When sessions are contained, monitored, and bound by just-in-time controls, an attacker who gains a foothold has nowhere to go. But perhaps most importantly, you can extend privilege controls across the entire workforce. We are moving beyond the era where high-grade security was reserved for a small elite. Every single identity has access that matters. Because as we have seen, that is exactly where the risk lives. When you address that risk in a way that is dynamic, contextual, and simple to operate, you do more than just add a new tool. You fundamentally change the security posture of the entire organization. You move from a reactive state of identity debt to a proactive state of active security. Idira Modern PAM enables us to close the exposure gap. This is the end of the always-on era and the beginning of a resilient AI enterprise. Now, to show you how these same privileges apply to the exploding world of non-human identities, I want to welcome to the stage Avahai.
Woo. Thank you, Amy. That was fantastic and perfectly sets up the other half of the story. Amy just showed us how privilege is expanding across the workforce. But when we look at machine identities, we're dealing with an entirely different scale. Look at the swarm on the screen. The ratio is already 109 machine to a single human. It's going to be 110 soon. And with the fast adoption of AI agents, it's growing faster than ever before. Think about what makes up your infrastructure today. Every automated process, every microservice, every container, every AI agent, these are all identities. They all need to be authenticated. Many of them need privileges and secrets to do their job, and every single one of them introduces risk. The wave that you see on the screen represents sprawl. Not just a sprawl of secrets, also a sprawl of unknown machine identities and scattered vaults, and together they create a massive hidden security blind spot. And the sheer number of these machines is exploding. They spin up, they do their job, and they disappear. And because of that, the security solutions around them must evolve. Because when you have unknown identities and scattered vaults, you lack centralized governance, and you lack control. If you see just a sea of alerts without any context, where do you start? How do you prioritize? The manual processes can't simply keep up with the modern technology and scale. To secure a dynamic environment, automation is an absolute must. Because if our solutions do not evolve, we don't just lose visibility, we lose control. All right, so we introduced the risk. Now let's understand how we solve them. Previously, we introduced Secrets Hub to give you centralized visibility and control over your external vaults. But the environment is moving faster than ever. So today, we're adding the automation at scale that machine identity security truly needs. Whether your secrets are in AWS, Azure, GCP, HashiCorp, we find them. We remove the friction. No more complex setups, no more manual configurations. You can just onboard them to our platform with a single click and start managing it centrally. But here's the most important part. We've added all that power without changing the developer workflow. Your developers can stay on the environments they love. They keep their velocities, but you, all of you, you get centralized control that you've been looking for. We didn't just update Secrets Hub. We made it work at the scale and the speed of the machine. Now let's take a deeper look. We're also adding a brand new era of risk and centralized visibility for machines. Managed secrets, unmanaged secrets, external vaults, even our own SaaS. Everything is now unified in a single automated view. But we don't stop there. We're going deeper. We're going into the ephemeral world. Those identities that live just for a second, we see them. All those pesky Jenkins CI/CD pipelines that used to be blind spot, we inventory them for you. We discover credentials and workloads automatically. We're taking the unknown out of your environment and replacing it with absolute clarity. Lastly, giving machines a strong way to fetch secrets has been our focus for years. But we want to take it a step forward. Because I showed you a sprawl, but how can you regain control over your sprawl without having a true zero-trust solution for machines? Up until now, most of the industry secured this application based on what they know, a secret or a credential. But here's the problem. If an attacker steals a secret, is instantly trusted. This is a fundamental identity problem. We have to shift the focus to who the app is. So what's our solution? Today, we're introducing secure workload access, which solves this by issuing universal SPIFFE-based identities. It doesn't matter if it's a Kubernetes pod, a VM, or an AI agent. Before they can do anything, they have to improve their DNA through continuous attestation. But here's the real breakthrough in all this. Those identities that we're issuing, they're ephemeral. They live for minutes, even seconds. And in case the identity is compromised by an attacker somehow, it is already gone. We are dramatically reducing the risk of forever secrets. This is the ultimate shift left. We manage the machine identity from day one. We're not just securing your workloads. We're giving them proven identity that finally makes zero trust from machines a reality. Now, we talked a lot. Let's see it in action and walk through how we are protecting machine identities.
The Command Center provides us a high-level view of an organization's machine identity posture. The Machine Identity Inventory gives us the discovered machine identities, both managed and unmanaged. Let's look at the machine identities that are of high risk and those that need to be onboarded. We will look at the Jenkins pipeline. The details provide all the metadata. From the Privileges tab, we see that the machine identity has access to a lot of secrets, and we have identified 2 risks. Let us address the first risk by automatically onboarding the machine identity to the Idira platform. The modern SPIFFE authenticator provides us the most secure way to authenticate. In addition, we will also create the voltage secrets to use SPIFFE SVID with a simple toggle. The summary screen shows that the ML training pipeline will be configured to use SPIFFE where applicable. Create and Promote will onboard this machine identity and will be confirmed by the newly listed authenticator. SPIFFE-based authentication is now enforced, significantly hardening the machine identity posture, as reflected in the Command Center.
Pretty awesome, right? It was worth the wait, but you know, part of what happens. And by replacing those static secrets with the SPIFFE-based identities, we've moved from what we saw previously, the unmanaged secret sprawl, to a clear and verifiable machine identity posture. Look, we talked about, and we will talk more about the massive scale of AI agents. And we talked about the power of SPIFFE just now. But the reality check. We know the reality of your infrastructure. Your infrastructure is not just one thing. It is multi-cloud, it is hybrid, it is multi-generational. You have legacy applications that still run your business right now. Most security companies will tell you, just leave them behind or modernize them. We don't. We believe that even legacy apps deserve modern machine identity. And we're doing so by providing a model that is truly any-to-any-to-any. Any workload, from the oldest mainframe to the newest AI agent, can use any access method, a secret, a token, a certificate, it doesn't matter, and connect to any target, on cloud, on-prem, that works. We're bridging the gap between the debt of the past and the requirements of the AI era. With Idira's machine identity security, you don't have to choose between modernization and security. We give you both. All right, units coming. Let's talk about the new class of identity. AI agents, we talked about them. Parrots, Nikesh, talked about them. They're not just another workload in your stack, right? They don't just execute the predefined instructions. They make decisions. They don't just interact with system during office hours. They work all the time, continuously. They act like humans, but at the scale and the speed of the machine. And you know, just saying agent is actually generalizing a very complex problem. I want you to keep in mind 2 distinct agent types that we're going to talk about. Like I said earlier, there's going to be a pop quiz at the end. The first one, Nikesh already mentioned, delegated agents. Borrowing the human permissions to perform tasks for us at the speed of light. There are also autonomous agents that trigger workflows and interact with sensitive data with 0 human oversight. Both are incredibly advanced, and both are the new front line of enterprise risk. If you look at the reality of what's going on right now, most organizations have very little visibility into what their agents are doing. They don't know what those agents can access. They cannot distinguish between what is an employee deliberate action and what is actually an agent that did it in his behalf. Your teams right now are building agents so they can move faster. But by doing so, they are sharing their own identities with those agents. And it doesn't just stop at delegation. Later, those agents will do a great job. They will become autonomous. They will be given secrets or API keys or credentials. And they will actively seek more secrets and privileges to do their job. What you're looking at is a potentially huge, huge, huge shadow agentic workforce, completely unsecured, unmonitored, unchecked, and acting with highly privileged permissions. Securing your agentic workforce is about identity. Every action an agent takes, it takes through an identity. And the only way you can really, really secure AI agents is to treat them as you would every other employee in your organization. Now, let's hear from Jason on how Carnival are doing just that.
Identity is the perimeter, and it is a control plane to where if you master it, you reduce your chance of breach drastically. To date, I've approved roughly 250 AI use cases. We pulled back over 2,000 AI agents between Copilot and Bedrock. I knew there was going to be shadow IT. I knew it without a doubt. The fact that it was that bad, though, was an eye-opener. You see all sorts of threats around coding AI agents, deleting production databases and backups. They did it for one simple reason. They had the permission to destroy something. And that's what we're trying to stop. The partnership would allow me as a design partner to have significant input into something brand new, something that might end up being in use all over the world, using existing cyber technologies to enhance AI around, privileged session management, least privilege, zero standing access. Palo Alto Networks and Idira's future in what they have planned together is going to be very exciting.
Thank you, Jason. A really, really exact example of how AI agents can actually be over-provisioned and then just fly under the radar. Thanks, Jason. All right, we talked about the risk of agents with unmonitored privilege. Now let's start talking about some solutions. Earlier this year, we launched AI Agent Identity-Security, a comprehensive identity solution for AI agents that's pulling the capabilities that we spent years developing on the Idira platform. And today, we're really happy to share the next stage in how we're securing those AI agent identities. It all starts with the basics. We talked about it. Just assign the AI agent with a modern workload identity. That's the one that we announced a few minutes ago. You simply can't govern an agent that you cannot identify throughout its lifecycle. It's as simple as that. But we go further. We're applying fine-grained policies, zero standing privileges, just-in-time capabilities to ensure that no agent holds the permanent keys to your kingdom. We'll also be integrating secret management capabilities to kill those hard-coded secrets and the much-needed governance and lifecycle capabilities. We're giving your agents the right level of privilege control by leveraging the platform that we've built for over a decade. At RSA conference a few months ago, we changed the game again. We announced that our AI agent identity security solution will be natively integrated into Prisma AIRS 3.0. Think about the force of this integration. AIRS 3.0 solves the visibility gap. It finds and assesses every agent in your ecosystem and allows you to protect it in real time. And with the identity agent module, you can finally assign real identities to all these discovery entitlements. You define ownership. You set fine-grained policies. You enforce least privilege access. But we realized something was missing, a true control plane for AI agents. And we have addressed just that. A couple of weeks ago, we have entered into a definitive agreement to acquire Portkey.ai, a pioneer in AI gateways. With Porky as our AI gateway, it will allow us to centrally manage LLMs, MCP, A2A communication, gain deep observability into the agent operation, and really, really make your workforce scale at the enterprise grade that you need. Through AIRS 3.0, you govern every aspect of agent security, not just identity, the full cycle, total control. OK, now let's move one step forward and really understand how we're doing it. Let's start with delegated agents. Look, when an agent acts for a user today, it assumes its identity. It's as simple as that. You lose traceability, you lose accountability. We are restoring that. We provide full audit separation, so you can see exactly what the user did and what the agent did on its behalf. But we're not just watching, we'll also be controlling. We enable fine-grained policy down to the MCP level. You define what actions are allowed per user, per agent, and per target. And finally, we're killing the risk of session hijacking, all that authentication that's going on. We're replacing those risky, long-lived access tokens with short-lived credentials that can talk only to Idira. No more sharing identities, no more coarse blanket policies, no more anonymous agent actions. Now, remember I mentioned two types of agents earlier. The second type, autonomous agents, are even more dangerous, if that's possible. A fully privileged machine. They have the access, they have the speed, and they have the keys to your house, your secrets and your credentials. With Idira, as I said, we solve this by leveraging our unique workload identity. We perform deep attestation of the agent identity. Even if the agent wakes up, performs something at the speed of light, and disappears. But we don't just stop at that. We leverage our secrets management to secure the access path itself. The agent can get the privilege it needs to get the job done, but it never actually sees the secret. It never touches the keys. We're giving the machine the authority to act, but we're keeping the power in your hands. Now, let's look on how Idira provides the visibility and control necessary to secure both delegated and autonomous AI agents.
You can't secure what you can't see. The Command Center is the place to start. The AI Agent Inventory page gives you full visibility, building identity into the agent's DNA with unique identity, strong auth, and lifecycle controls. It's security by design, not an afterthought. Let's use Cora to list all the inactive Copilot agents so relevant actions can be taken. We all use MCP servers. Let's look at the MCP server inventory and check what controls are in place for the AWS MCP server. Cora is recommending some actions. Let's apply them. Security shouldn't be a bottleneck. We empower builders with global guardrails to proactively block catastrophic actions, like dropping a production database or terminating an instance. Ensuring innovation never comes at the cost of data loss. For agents acting on behalf of humans, we apply identity-aware policies. An agent should never be more powerful than the user. By connecting to Idira, agents inherit a safe subset of permissions, allowing safe actions while blocking risky ones like repository deletion. Autonomous agents carry the highest risk. Let's ask Cora to list them and focus on one of the agents. Using SPIFFE-based identities for secretless auth, we ensure every action is verifiable. Again, let's apply the recommendations from Cora. For sensitive tasks, the policy triggers a human-in-the-loop flow, granting just-in-time credentials only after explicit approval. Finally, for every action, human or autonomous, is captured in a full traceability log. You see who acted, which tool was used, and who authorized it. This is AI speed with enterprise governance.
All right, that was a really, really great example of how we took that huge black hole of agentic risk and actually put it into a fully transparent, governed Workshop solution. OK, the future is here now. Everything that I shared is really what it takes to truly secure an agentic workspace. Because reality is simple. AI agents are no longer a future concern. They are already a part of your environment. They're already interacting with your secret. They are already making decisions. And they're already introducing risk. So the question is really not whether you need to secure them. The only question is whether you're going to be ready. Thank you. Peretz, back to you.
That was pretty cool, right? Thank you, Avichai. So what you heard today is not 3 separate stories. It is one story told through 3 different identity types. Amy showed you the human side of the house, how human privilege has expanded across the workforce. And Avichai just showed you how machine identities and AI agents now operate at a scale and speed that really traditional approach simply cannot keep up with. Different behaviors, but they share one thing in common. They all carry access. They all carry privilege, and they all introduce risk. In the modern enterprise, risk flows through identity. And identity is what connects everything. It is the new control plane. If identity is the new control plane, then securing identity is how you secure everything else. With Idira, we have built a platform that treats identity as the foundation of security. We are delivering the next generation human, machine, and agentic identity security all brought together into a one single unified platform experience. Palo Alto Networks is accelerating innovation while investing in the problems we have solved for the past 25 years. We are moving from reacting to threats to staying ahead of them. That is the future we are building, and that is what Idira enables. As a standalone platform in the Palo Alto Networks portfolio, identity is now central to cybersecurity. So listen, we have so much to share about integrations and joint value. Really look forward to continue having these discussions and conversations. Please join the breakout sessions and visit the demo areas to engage with our experts. I'd like to thank you for joining us at Impact 2026. Thank you. And now, a little surprise.
Chaos. Pandemonium.
Help!
Where did it all go wrong? Permission and access.
Can I borrow the car keys?
Yeah, drive safe, bud.
Every day, well-meaning people give away access to things they really shouldn't.
Can I use your credit card?
1 second.
Thank you.
To actions that should be restricted.
Oh, no. Hun, where's the ladder?
It's in the garage, Mom.
I'm coming, Jingle!
To people who probably don't need it.
Hey, neighbor.
It happens when your permissions are too broad, or you give someone a little too much power, or grant access to someone who really shouldn't have it at all.
Somebody help me!
You wouldn't do this at home, so why would you do it at work? Idira by Palo Alto Networks is the next generation identity security platform that secures every identity for the AI enterprise. Control the chaos. Secure every identity.